Welcome, welcome to Chatting with the Stars. It's a pleasure to be here every Thursday night. To my long lasting fans, I'm telling you, we are so appreciated for you logging on, tuning in. As we said, this month is Black History Month, and we will be honoring who we think are stars on RHR TV1. And we have a beautiful young lady in the house tonight who is a star by far for us. And we want to shed some light on her upbringing and her life and what she's doing to give back to the community. Call her working behind the scenes. She's doing such a great job. We're talking about Dr. Venessa Walker. And she's here with us. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having
welcome.
me.
We are happy to have you. You're such a beautiful young lady. I've been saying,
you.
how do you keep it going with all the hats that you wear? Can you tell us the hats that you wear?
So, in a few capacities, I am a business owner. I'm a chiropractic physician. I have an office here in Miramar. So, apart from that, I function as a leader in a nonprofit, Owen Walker Jr. Foundation, community leaders, and leader in my church. So there is various hats, and sometimes I ask myself, how do I? But by the grace, I'm able to. I think passion fuels the functioning of each position. Yes.
Which one is your favorite?
Which one's my favorite? You know what? I can't truly say I have a favorite because I have a passion to do those things. When I was younger, my thing was that I just love to see smiles on people's face. In every space, in every function, I get that. So what takes the majority of my time? The office. So trade by day and full function in a chiropractor in the office. So that takes the majority of my time.
Okay. You're a bishop's daughter.
Yes, I am.
You are, and we would like to just shed a light on your upbringing. What was life like for you? Were you born here or you were born in Jamaica?
I was born in Jamaica. So I was born in Montego Bay, Jamaica. And when I was 9 years old, I came to the States. My dad was already here, so we migrated like most family, probably in a stage of flow. Some come in different capacities. We had a stage. My dad came first, then my brother came after. My brother, who we have a foundation after, that passed away. Then my sister came, and then I came. So there was a piece where I got to stay in Montego Bay with my mom, me and my mom by myself. But when we got here to the States, our upbringing, I am blessed to have a father who I proudly call my pastor, my dad, my friend. At the age of whatever you think it is, I'm still a daddy's girl, and I'm proud of that. You know, so in coming up and with my parents or my dad, I don't know, I guess for less than a year was a single dad with two girls.
How was that? Explain that to me.
I got a Jerry curl. That's what happened. You know, when daddy's supposed to do the hair, you get the easiest route. But what came from that is seeing the love for his children, you know. So I can't say there were tough times, and if there were tough times, because he'll probably tell the story differently. But I didn't feel those tough times, you know. So it's the space where I'm in a family where mom and dad just always provided for their children. So if there were tough times, and you know when you get older they tell you the true stories, there were definitely tough times. But I can say as children we didn't feel those tough times. You know, growing up as a pastor's child, I was at church every time the doors open, no matter what it may be. The other day I was ministering at the church, and I remember my dad saying that, you know, she was always in church, she was always in church. And I'm thinking, you don't remember the times I was trying to get away from church, you know? And not in a bad way, but you know, it's a continuous. I remember there was one time when I told my dad I had to study for school, so I couldn't come to church. And he was like, well, bring the books. So I took down every encyclopedia book I could and packed them stack on stack. And he was like, come on, we'll bring them all. So here I am with like 10 encyclopedia books coming to church. My dad's like, bring them on. So I must say that the space where I have my dad, my mom, my sister, my brother's not around anymore, but in that stage where we were coming, they didn't let us see the tough times. I know they were there, but I have fond childhood memories of daddy being daddy. And then when it came to the capacity that my mom joined us here in the States, mommy being mommy. Yes.
Right. And now you have gone through a terrible loss in your life.
Yeah.
In that upbringing.
Yeah.
You lost your sibling, your brother.
Yes.
Can you tell us what is that like?
It's tough. Simple answer. It's tough. So what happened with my brother? My brother was 22 years old, and January 5th, 2009, we got a phone call that he was playing basketball and he fell, and they took him to the hospital. Like anyone who would think, you're playing basketball, you fall, okay, take him to the hospital, brush off his knees, and we thought it was that simple, but it wasn't. What was actually happening after we all gathered at the house and the room was cloudy, the space just felt like something more is happening.
Yes.
So I remember calling Tallahassee where he was at the time. He was going to FAMU for school. So I called Tallahassee Community Hospital, and I asked for the nurse who was in charge of the microdose that came into their hospital, because they didn't have an IV on him at the time. And I remember saying to her, because it sounds like she didn't want to give me any information. So this is Dr. Walker, and I need to know what's going on with your Michael Doe, my Owen Walker. And she goes, Dr. Walker, Dr. Walker, I need you, are you sitting down? And we all watch TV. So you know when they ask you, are you sitting down, something's coming. So I did, I sat down, and she said to me, if you want to see him alive, you need to come down. So me, my mom, my dad got into my little G35 coupe at the time, and we drove to Tallahassee in less than 4 hours. When we got to Tallahassee, it was the struck of our lives. There were tubes inside him everywhere. Whichever a needle could go, it was there. And one thing I remember vividly is the physician at the time, that was his attending physician, came over into the little room where we were, me and my dad was, and he goes, I want to pray with you guys. All right, and I think, oh man, the physician, the doctor want to pray with us? This is a big deal. So my mom was in the room with my brother, and to say how tragic it was for our family, we didn't have anywhere to stay. We don't know anybody in Tallahassee. We only knew him, and of course we don't have access to his place because of all that's happening. So we stayed at the Ronald McDonald House, and I remember driving to...
What's the Ronald McDonald House?
So Ronald McDonald's house is where they actually house family that have loved ones that are going through particular situations. So for example, your loved one's in the hospital, and they do extended from there, but at that particular was loved ones in the hospital, you don't have a place to stay, they house you while they're in the hospital. So we stayed at the Ronald McDonald House, or when we're going to the Ronald McDonald House, I remember like falling on my knees in the parking lot, and I said to my dad, why our family? We haven't done anything wrong. Like, why us? Why is this happening to us? And my dad looked, and I told you I'm a daddy's girl. So what daddy says kind of goes, right? You go to the leader in your family for the answer most of the time. And my dad looked at me, he goes, Vanessa, I don't know. So for the first time in my life, I felt like my dad didn't have the answer for what was happening. And I really thought this was it for our family. So with him being in Tallahassee and with us not knowing the maneuver of that, my mother's a registered nurse, so she called who she could on this side of town at Jackson Memorial Hospital, and we had him medevac here. So probably an hour and a half of torture while we're driving back from Tallahassee and he's being medevac here to Jackson Memorial Hospital. When he did come here, he spent 19 days in the ICU. So 19 days of complications. In that process, they had a suit cut his brain. They had his brain was swollen. They had to do a cranium not extraction. They had to cut his cranium at the time.
Can you break that down for us?
So what was happening? His brain was swelling. So they basically cut around to take the top of the cranium. So our brains sit inside this bucket. We look at it as our head, but it's considered on the medical term the cranium. So they had to cut around to take the top of his cranium off so that the swelling the brain could have a space to expand. So with all that happening, he had a stroke, and after the 19 days, he had another round of heart attack. And when he had those last round of heart attack, that was it. So that was January 24th where he passed away.
And he was 22.
He was 22 years old.
What age did you get your doctorate?
At 25.
At 25.
At 25. So we actually were living together. So when I was going through chiropractic school, he was there with me.
Wow.
The best years of my life. And well, I can't even say the best years of my life, because when I was in undergrad, he was there also. When I was in undergrad, he would come for the summers. And because of the knit relationship, he's my younger brother. I'm the middle, and I have my older sister. So because of the close knit relationship, he would be there with his, older sister during college, when he was in high school. So he would come for the summers. And then when I did go to chiropractic school for graduate school, we decided that we would stay together. He went to Bethune-Cookman College while I was going to chiropractic school in Port Orange. So not even a 7-month gap of me graduating and him going off to Tallahassee and me coming home to kind of figure out my bearings before starting to work into the field. He passed me. Yeah. Wow. So tragic, I say, baseline, but one of the things that I tell you I do is the Owen Walker Jr. Foundation.
And we want to talk about that when we come back from the break. We want to talk about the Owen Jr. Walker Foundation.
We are Fab Five, and you're tuned to Real Hard Roots TV.
Keep watching.
Roots TV are the boss.
Fab Five says so.
We are.
Yes, we missed the break.
Oh, okay.
Because I saw it. Yeah.
How you know when break comes in? That thumb?
Welcome back to Chatting with the Stars. Or as we said, this is Black History Month, and we're talking about the people who are giving back to the community, people who work behind the scenes. And we have a young lady who we think is a star at RHR TV1, and her name is Dr. Venessa Walker. If you're just joining us, we are talking to Dr. Walker about the loss of her brother at such a tender age of 22 years old, and it led them to start a foundation. And we'll talk about that foundation now. How did that foundation start?
So, 24th of January, he passed away. We buried him on the 5th of February. And the 7th of February, I was like, this can't be the end. This can't be it. So I reached out to a coach of his. Before reaching out to the coach, Sunbiz, whatever I needed to do to initiate the foundation, did that. And reached out to a coach of his where he played basketball in the community. And he was playing basketball when he had the heart attack. So I reached out to his middle school coach and said to Coach Riddick, we need to do something. Like, it just can't stop here. There were so many plans that he had for his life, to continue coaching, to major so that he's able to teach and pour back into the community. I was like, it just can't end here. So with that, our first thing we did was a basketball tournament. We did a basketball tournament and gathered together local high school varsity and JV teams where they had the space to compete against each other. And from that, we awarded a $1,000 scholarship to those who were part of the tournament. So they had to go through application process. They had to go through, so we gave it to a deserving high school student. So the reason why we wanted to do it for a basketball player, because we wanted to encourage these players that you can play in a capacity where it's competitive, but don't forget your academia, right? So on the courts, but also don't let your academia fall by the wayside.
What about health?
So yeah, so we do the Heart Walk every year. We've done health fairs, we put on health events. So at 22, who ever think a 22-year-old will get a heart attack, right?
Yes.
So what we encourage young people now is that listen to your body. Listen to your body. There were times when my brother would say to me, I'm so tired, but who knows what that was associated to. So listen, if you see that there's a space where something feels out of the norm, acknowledge that. We're in a culture where either the young people, we feel like we're invincible, so nothing should happen to us. And the relationship that we build with our physician is sometimes what's the word? Where we're not trusting our physician, where it's not, okay, let me just go and see what's happening. So it's that fear through a physician rather than having a relationship with a physician. And I always say to those who are on the other end, if you don't feel like you can have a conversation about your health with your physician, find a new one, right? Because there has to be a capacity where you can have a conversation. I think the conversation in his health was gap. There was a gap in there. I think we could have known a little bit more to follow through, and this could have been preventative rather than a reaction. We were landing in a place where we had to react rather than my mom being from healthcare, me being from healthcare would have been reactive, preventative than reactive. So in that capacity, we do encourage young people to make sure you listen. We do the Heart Walk every year just to empower our community that a 22-year-old had a heart attack, right? A 22-year-old had a heart attack. So we have great athletes, but sometimes they believe that they're the star in their family, and because a doctor might say you have cardiomegaly, which is an enlarged heart, your whole future is over. Just recently, a young man decided that he wasn't going to play, I think it's at UF, wasn't going to play football anymore because his physician said that if you continue, you might have heart situations. So here's a star player that decided that rather than being on the field, I'm going to choose to not, so I can preserve my livelihood, right? Or the extension of life. So that's where the process of the scholarship comes in, where allow your academia to be the full forward push and your athleticism to be an additive. And oh, how beautiful is that, to know that you have the combine of two. And if the body kind of fail on you a little bit, you always have your brain.
Yes, it could. And so the Owen Walker Foundation has been going on for how long now?
So this is our 9th year, but 10 years of events.
What do you do? What is your role?
Okay, as the in the foundation, so I'm the president. I'm the president of the foundation. Family and extended board members bring our culmination together. In that capacity, I am the president of the board.
And what do you do as a president?
So as the president, aligning, just making sure that we're functioning in the capacity of carrying out our mission and our vision. Our mission is to empower, equip, educate youth and young adults with the positive tools for necessary change. So making sure that we're in the line of those things and their activities that one ties back into the heart of Owen, but also the heart of our community. So we also, an additional scholarship that we have been able to add is a scholarship to his alumni high school, so his alma mater at Miramar High School. So there's a $500 scholarship for seniors that are going on to higher education there.
Each?
$500, well, there's a $1,000 scholarship through the basketball tournament and a $500 scholarship right now for one recipient. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome community work. Now, tell me a little bit about your structure with the practice. How does that now play in together with health walks and all of that?
You know what? I'll tell you a piece. So I have the blessing of having my practice in the community that I grew up. When I left Jamaica, I was 9 years old. And I went to elementary school in the city of Miramar. I went to middle school in the city of Miramar. I went to Stranahan High School in Fort Lauderdale because they had a magnet program, a medical magnet program. And I've heard if you want to be a doctor, you need to be going to Stranahan because they had this medical magnet program. So with that, the structure of the office allows me to, one, pour back into the community, and then two, allows me to, through a partnership with Miramar High School, doing the athlete school physical, have me to take the extra step in listening when we're listening for heart sounds, listening when they have a concern, being attentive to their paperwork to know that this is an athlete, but he was only 22. So as much as they're thinking that they're invincible, I want to go the extra step to make sure that I am actually listening, make sure that, you know, if heart needs to be passed on to a cardiologist or to their pediatrician, there's a space of doing that. So being a chiropractor and a physician in my community have lent the hand for me to pour back into my community.
Okay.
I know about
That's a
that,
lot.
right? Yeah.
Yes. You
Yeah.
are a chiropractor.
I am, yes.
Why that field?
Why chiropractic? So when I was smaller, as my mom would say, I would rub her foot with alcohol, and she's a registered nurse, so she just knew I was going to do something to help people. And I do. I love seeing smiles on people's faces. They don't always come in with a smile, but after a little bit, some do, and in due time, it's there. So why chiropractic? I say chiropractic chose me. And the reason why I say chiropractic chose me, because I went to the University of South Florida. And in attending the University of South Florida, and I'm 17 years old, going off to college, and I remember I said my parents from Jamaica, so with my parents coming from Jamaica, I don't think they actually knew the system of the American system of schooling. All right, so Stranahan High School, I kind of figured out Stranahan High School on my own and went to the Magna program. So when it was coming to University of South Florida, me attending the University of South Florida, I chose that school because I went on a college tour. And I got to the school and I was like, I like this school, so I want to go to this school.
What was a college tour like? We
So
don't
the
have this in Jamaica.
So
we
college tour,
Yeah.
I was a part of a program that took us to a few colleges, and University of South Florida was one of them. So we went to, I think, like 4 schools. And when I got to USF, so the college tour itself is, I think I was probably 11th grade, 12th grade, about to finish high school. And it was an organization, they got together a few young people, and we got on a bus and drove north in Florida and visited a few schools. And USF was the school I thought I wanted to go to. So I came back home and told my parents, I'm going to USF, you know? So for them not knowing the schools in Florida or any other
Where
school.
is that school located?
USF is in Tampa, so I'm forever
Okay.
a bull. I said all my dollars and my sweat, and well, my parents' dollars and sweat and tears went to the University of South Florida. But even sharing that, I'll share this. Just the other day, I received a letter and a notice that, so they have, at USF, they have through their alumni program, where they have a young alumnus, outstanding young alumnus award. And this year, I'm one of the recipients of 7 for the Young Outstanding Alumnus Award. And the reason why I'm ecstatic about that, because I just went to USF. You know, it's not like I had friends, family. I had one friend from school that was going to USF, but it wasn't like I had this big crowd at USF. I remember when I was supposed to start college, and I was 17, so my mother had to sign the lease. I was staying in an apartment. And here I am, new school, new city, new place. I've never lived outside of my parents, and I told my mom she had to sign the lease. And she was like, absolutely not. You're not leaving home. And I'm thinking, because my sister stayed home for school. She went to Johnston Will University, so she was local. So my mom said, no, I'm not doing it. So we all drove to Tampa anyway. And she did. She signed the lease. So within the first week of me being, my parents dropped me off, but within the first week of me being at school, I called my dad and said, come pick me up. I'm ready to come back home. Come pick me up. Because I hadn't been away from them ever. So I called him and he goes, no, that's not going to happen. We can pray, but you left here to become a doctor. So when you're finished with your doctorate, then you can come back home. And I thought to myself, okay, let's pray about it and leave it alone. But I'm glad he did that. I'm absolutely glad he did that. Because I didn't come home until I had my doctorate. Yeah, I didn't come home until I had my doctorate, yes.
What was that like?
So,
was there any issue with you in school being from Jamaica? With peers?
Yes, so elementary school when I started, I remember transitioning from when I got here for elementary school, I was the girl who, say something again, but they just want to hear me talk, and I had a heavy accent, so they want to hear the girl say something again, and I was good in sports, so I would be finished with all my schoolwork, kind of sitting around, always extending to sports, but they wanted me to say something again because they wanted to hear the little girl with the accent. But outside of that, when I got to, same with the accent, when I got to the 6th grade, I would always say, I had a project we had to do, and I would say salad bowl. And everybody was like, a bowl? Like, what's a bowl? Because they say bold compared to bald. And everybody's like, say it again, but the thick Jamaican accent. So I had that, you know, my sixth grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and I had the space where I felt like I needed more work to keep me going. I needed more, you know, schoolwork to keep me going.
All right, we're coming up for a short break. We'll be right back.
5-5, and you're tuned to Real Hard Roots TV.
Keep watching.
Roots TV are the boss.
5-5 says so.
We.
Yes, welcome back to Chatting with the Stars. I'm telling you, we have a phenomenal woman in the house. We love her. She's a star for us. And I'm telling you, there is no room for growth. I think she has reached the horizon.
No, keep on growing.
The pinnacle,
Keep on
the
growing.
pinnacle, yes. At this age, how old are you?
35 on my good days. And 21 whenever you want that to be. No, 35. 35, yes.
And at 25, earned her doctorate. And we're talking about the doctoral degree. So tell us about, well, first of all, we're talking about the USF.
So I say I was chosen for chiropractic, and the reason why I say that, when I got to the University of South Florida, one of my first classes was called University Experience. And in University Experience, they asked us to find someone who's in the field you desire to be in and do an interview with them. So now remember, I'm new to Tampa, I'm new to University of South Florida, and this is the first class that I get. So I go in the telephone book, and I wanted to be a sports physician. I saw where I was a sports physician. At the time, my parents had got me a little car, so I drove to this doctor's office that was a sports physician. So I sat there, he answered all my questions, and he said he's a chiropractor. And I said, okay. I don't know what that is, but okay, that's nice. He's a doctor. So he said to me, I know this Jamaican female chiropractor that I want you to go and visit. And I thought to myself, okay, I'll say okay to him, but absolutely not. I wasn't going to anybody else. I already did my homework. I got my grades. I don't need to do any extra work. So I went home and I sent him a thank you note. And in sending that thank you note, he called me the next day and offered me a job. So I worked with Dr. Jones, that I still have in my life to this day. I worked with Dr. Jones for 4 years in my undergrad studies. And that didn't decide it for me. You know, in working at the office, I absolutely love it. So I was able to work in a healthcare space and while going to school, and I wanted to be a doctor. So I got a scholarship to go to what's a minority medical prep program. And I shadowed every doctor I wanted to shadow, from the orthopedic surgeon to the urologist. I helped the urologist doing a kidney transplant. I saw the doctors I wanted to. And then I came back home and was like, I like what I've been doing. I like the space. I like what was happening in the office. I like seeing athletes in the office. I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. And I applied to chiropractic school. Okay. And that's what got me into chiropractic school. Or got me into the space of chiropractic. Yeah.
How was that school like?
Chiropractic school was 3.5 years of intense work.
Okay, so now discipline is required.
A whole lot of discipline.
And sacrifice.
And a lot of sacrifices.
What are some of the sacrifices that you had to give up to become a doctor?
You know what? I remember there were times when I would take a study break 3 a.m. in the morning. So that means I've been studying the whole afternoon. And it would be 3 o'clock in the morning. I can remember where me and my brother would walk to the gas station and be like, okay, let's just take a break and get something and walk back to the apartment. So nights of study.
So your brother was with you?
In chiropractic school, yes. Yes. So while I was going to chiropractic school, he was going to Bethune-Cookman College, which was probably 10 minutes, not even, probably 5 minutes away from my school. So he lived with me during that time. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So I tell you, I always say that I had great years with him. You know, we had a close-knit relationship, and I had great years with him. But there was a lot of sacrifices for chiropractic school. And in hindsight, would I do it all over again? Absolutely.
What are the sacrifices? What about, well, you didn't go to parties because you couldn't.
You know what?
You grew up in church.
It's not even a sense of like, Daytona didn't have the atmosphere for that. So it wasn't like, it wasn't like you had just a lot of parties happening in Daytona anyway. So what
There were no college parties?
No, because it was graduate school. So they might have had college parties for Bethune-Cookman, but I mean, by that time I was like 21, 22, I'm going to high school stuff in that sense. So, and there wasn't this desire for those things. But to say what was sacrificed, a lot of family time. There were some times that I could have come home for a break. There were other times that I was like, I'll just stay, I need to study. You know, there was sacrifice in the capacity where you're wanting to work, but you know you have this load, but then you know you have this load of student loans. So it was a blend between you had to really manage time well, or focus in the sense that this period of time is just focus for school. And that's really the majority of what I did, school. School, and more school, yeah.
And you didn't miss going out with your girlfriends, hanging around?
I didn't really have that. So my girlfriends became my schoolmates that was there. And you know what, I had a church that I was attending at the time in Orlando, which was probably like 30 minutes from where school was. So I had a relationship with folks there. And I also had one good girlfriend that I would just go and hang at her house. You know, it was a space where you just kind of focus on the schoolwork and get it done. So those who were girlfriends at the time, towards the end of school, it was different. But those who were girlfriends at the time were those who were going to school with me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So the sacrifice was everything that come on the outside. The extended time to visit family, that wasn't there. It was probably the big holidays that you get to come down, but it wasn't a space where you get to see. It was like study, clinical studies, homework, you know, exams all the time. Our days were from 8 to 4:30, and 8 to 4:30 of knowledge. So after 4:30, you have your decision to study to pass the classes of all the knowledge you got throughout the day.
Okay, so you chose to study.
Oh, yeah. I tell people that, you know, I had a passion for becoming a physician, but I wasn't the child that you just look at the notes and you just kind of get it all. I had to study, you know, and I took pride in studying because I knew the goal I had in mind. So I say that, you know, in the space of encouraging those who you might have a goal and it seems like, you know, I may not be the one for this, or my study patterns or my behavior, however that pattern may be, but I say stay the course. Stay the course, because I had class that I believe was difficult, but because I went over and beyond to make sure I understand the information, and it took a little bit extra. But now I you know, you attain the information, you pass your classes. I became a physician, passed my boards. I'm 4 years in solo practice, 10 years of physician.
What are your goals? What have you attained your goals at this age?
I think a portion of, you know, so one of my goals was to open an office. So I've attained that. So there's a portion of that I have attained. And then I think once you grow, you make new goals. So now I desire a second office. So while you attain goals, more goals kind of come along in that space. So there's a capacity of goals that I have attained. But as I grow, more desire and more impact come with the things that I want to do.
Do you have a family life? Is
So
that one of the goals?
So, okay, so you're asking me if I want to marry and have kids. Yes, sometimes I say, God, send them. So I'm not married and I don't have children. But yes, so that is a desire, that is a goal. Yes.
That is a goal.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yes,
You're a beautiful woman.
yes. So now I kind of transition with my nephews. But I'll also say that I do... I believe at times that we desire the next season and forget about living in this season. So you know what I can do in this season? I like to travel too. So what I can do in this season is that if I desire to go somewhere, I can go. You know, I don't have the ankle biters, I call them. I don't have the children and be like, okay, you can't go because you gotta find a babysitter. So now I want to make sure that I'm living out this season. So when the next season does come along, I'm ready, I'm prepared, and I don't feel like, oh, I wish I would have done that when, you know, no, just live and explore this season so that when the season of family and children comes along, I'll embrace that too. Yeah.
You ran for commissioner.
I did. I ran for commissioner in the city of Miramar. I did, yeah.
And you didn't win.
I did not win. Okay, so let me rephrase that. I didn't, or how I put it, I didn't win in votes to be sitting on the commission seat. But how I believe I won was in the impact in the community, in the impact in my neighbors, the residents, the community that I grew up in. So there wasn't a space where I felt like, oh man, I was defeated. I believe the defeat lands in the space that I think that there should be a different positioning for that seat. A different positioning for that seat. But, so the numbers didn't prevail a win, but in heart and for my community that I grew up in,
yes,
there was a win. Yeah.
What sacrifices, what did you learn? Did this running for commissioner for the seat, what did you take away from it, good or bad?
So good that I took away from it is that there is much to be done in our community.
Such as?
Whew, do we have time on RHRTV for that? Like, I love my community, but there needs to be a structure where there's tangible for our people. There are a lot of requests from the community, but beyond that, so good is you realize that the people who are part of this community are peoples and persons who just desire more, right? So I've been here for blank amount of years, and I want to make sure that the parks are nice. I want to make sure that when the rain falls, water puddles aren't pulling up. I want to make sure that like me, if their children go away, they decide to come back. Like, yes, I came back, you know. So it's not that I came back and only got involved in my community, but I was able to come back and open a business and supply jobs for residents in my community. So in those capacities where it's not the 5 years, but we have people in the city of Miramar who are living for 20 years. I've been here for 23 years. So there's that passion that squeezes out of the community and the people as they want to make sure that the community is united. Sometimes in our city you hear this side and that side, but they want a unity of our city. So there were multiple things that were taken away as good. And as if you were to say to bad, if I was to say, I don't think I can directly say, you know what I can say bad is that when you have good people who decide to run for politics, those good people still have to guard their family. What I didn't expect to happen, politics fight is a politics fight. What I didn't expect to happen is a personal attack, and that happened.
Well, tell us about that.
So a personal attack was on the foundation and also me as a professional. So that I would consider bad, but I hear in politics anything goes, right? So why I say it was good for me is because regardless, my dad says, if somebody's gonna talk about you, that means you're worth talking about. So you know what? I always think I'm worth talking about. So in that capacity, you know, some negative things that professional wise could have cost me livelihood in a sense, you know, as a nonprofit that pours back.
But wouldn't you recover from that though? I've
recovered. So you know how they say probably even Jamaican, they say sticks and stones may break a bone, but you know, words can never hurt. You know, people will say things, but so one of the attack was that I'm not a doctor. So after so many years of going through school, it just
we're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
R55, and you're tuned to Real Hard Roots TV.
Keep watching.
Roots TV are the boss.
Fab 5 says so.
I'll be honest. Oh, well, we're welcome back. This is Chatting with the Stars. I'm your host, Jordan Love. And we're sitting here with our star for Black History Month for this week, Dr. Venessa Walker. And we're talking about the Owen Walker Jr. Foundation that was started because of a tragic situation with her brother. They lost their brother to a heart attack at the age of 22 while playing basketball, which has pretty much shattered her life in this community of coming back home and starting the Owen Walker Jr. Foundation. Well, we're talking about, before the break, politics fight.
Yeah, so what I was saying in regards that there were some jabs, but as I said before, in the capacity of the jabs, or
So you're not a doctor. That's what.
So that was the jab. That I'm not a doctor, and that, as I say, could have been a personal jab. But what I can say that has been a turnaround from that is that I got up and poured even more into my office. So I am blessed to say that I have a successful office, and I am elated that it is in my community. So because of that, I'm able to sponsor things in the community or bring people together in the community. So in the space where I say sometimes it's difficult for people with just good, genuine heart who say they want to help the community to be in the space of politics, because things like that come along. So as I said, when it was all said and done, there was good, there was bad, but I think it was pure. There was a lot more good than I can attain to bad. And I am grateful that I, along with, those who stood behind me, because I had true pillars, people that stand behind me.
Anybody you want to recognize?
So from my parents to the mayor to other commissioners through to, sometimes they say you know a good friend when you need a good friend. Yes. There were people with my church family that really came together, pastors around the community. If I had to name names, I'll be naming for, a period of time, but there were even local neighbors who were, yes, we need some change in this community. So for that, I am grateful to know that the community that I grew up in and choose to put my business in, because I think I'm a bred from the community, turned out to support me. And I hear it from them all the time. Dr. V, what's up for the next time? Dr. V, so I say when the opportunity presents itself, I'm always here for my community.
Are you going to run again?
When the opportunity presents itself, I'm always here for my community. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We were looking forward to change. We want to see the change.
Yeah, so I'm always here for the community in the capacities that I can. Yeah.
Yes. And for your hobbies?
Hobbies, travel. I like to travel.
Where have you been?
So where have I been? Madagascar. I try to go to Jamaica once a year. So I've been to Madagascar, Jamaica, Dominican Republic. I want to do Peru this year and Thailand, so we'll see how that happens. I was trying to go to Cuba, but then the president changed a lot of things, and I just want to make sure I can come back home. So I don't think Cuba's in the spotlight anymore for right now. But I do. I like to travel. I like to try new things. For my last birthday, I went deep sea fishing. So just new things. Sometimes I've flown a plane.
You have. Tell me about
that. So I have a good friend who I wanted to kind of encourage him back to flying. So I kind of bought the activity for him to kind of encourage him back into flying. And then the pilot was like, do you want to fly the plane? I was like, when else would I be able to fly? Let's go. So I've flown a plane. So yeah, I like to do things that you'll probably never think of doing. I say as long as it is legal, in moral standing, and I won't find myself in jail the next day, let's go, right? So some of the times we live life and we say, when I get a chance, I'll do, right? And miss the space of the capacity when we're able to do things.
Yes.
So when, 5 years down the road, and sometimes I have patients that come to my office and I'm back hurting and we can't walk as much as they used to walk before, but they don't get to do the good things that they want. So I just want to live in the moment and live in the now. Like, live in the space that is here now. Try new things, do new things. The other day I was trying to learn Spanish, so poquito español, but I'm coming with it, little by little. So the thing is that when I get to expand my brain, learning's a good thing. It keeps you alive, So sometimes we think that once you're finished with school, that's
you
it.
Stop learning.
But I don't really want to be in anybody's classroom, but I want to learn things. So with that, so even in my capacity as a chiropractic physician, just next weekend, I'll have a 2-day long of training. So I do personal injury in my office, where it's like auto accidents, people involved in, so personal injury portion. So maybe a motor vehicle, maybe injury in some capacity. So I've done a postdoctoral to make sure that I'm on the knowledge of what's truly happening in the profession and how I can treat my patients better. So sometimes it's like, you know, you feel like you should stop and it's by the wayside, but no, I've done plenty of hours of postdoctoral training to make sure that I still know and have the ability to really treat my patients, not from just sympathy, empathy portion, but as a physician knowing what needs to be done.
So there is no play with you when it comes down to your practice. You're a very good chiropractor.
Yes. And why I pride myself in that is because one, I always say anyone who walks through my door at Walker Chiropractic and Wellness Center, I want them to feel as if I'm treating my mom, which I do. I treat my parents. I treat my mom and my dad. But they all walk through and they all get the extended hand of family. What is it for you to feel comfortable in talking to your physician about what is happening? One, through maybe your injury. Two, through maybe the things of life that may be associated with what's happening. But they have to be a comfort there for there to be a relationship. So everyone who comes into my office know once they walk through the door, they're part of the Walker Chiropractic and Wellness Center family.
Okay, explain the wellness part to me.
So the wellness portion is that most of the times there are a lot of ailments that we can prevent.
Okay.
So there are ailments that we can prevent. So the wellness portion is making sure that are we decreasing our stress in our lives? Are we really truly doing that? What are the things that we can prevent? If it's obesity, if it's
you deal with obesity as well?
So yes, so obesity is a big portion of, or just weight gain is a big portion of. So what we have programs in the office that deals with decreased weight. I can have someone that come into my office and have a subluxation, and subluxation is what we focus on as a chiropractor. So they may have a subluxation of their spine, but if they have 30 pounds holding pressure on their back, I can adjust all I want.
We'll be going to a break. When we come back, we'll talk about wellness with Dr. Venessa Walker.
We are Fab Five, and you're tuned to Real Hard Roots TV.
Keep watching.
Roots TV are the boss.
Fab 5 says so.
Welcome back to Chatting with the Stars. We are talking with our star for this month, being Black History Month, with Dr. Venessa Walker. We were on the point of wellness, what it is with obesity and how obesity affects you where you are not well being obese.
Yeah, so as I was saying, as a chiropractor, we focus on subluxation. So your spine may be aligned, but if you're still putting pressure on your low back, your joints, your knees, because remember the knees and the joints are holding the body up. So in that capacity of if there's heavy additional weight to that, for every pound that we add to our body, our knees, joints are feeling 3 pounds, right? So because of that.
Can you say it again?
So every pound we add to our body, and so I give you the vary. For every pound that we add to our body, our joints are feeling about 3 to 5 pounds of weight. So just say the double of pressure that happens to the joint. That's where you get wear and tear. So the same thing as someone may come into my office for low back pain, but if we're not changing the lifestyle, and in wanting to be well, it's one thing to be aligned from a subluxation, but there's another thing to be well in your body altogether, when all your organs are succinct and functioning at their optimal level. So because of that, we want to make sure that the flow to the organs are effective, but also having a well lifestyle.
Well, you have accomplished so much. Can you speak to the people about what next Dr. Walker will be coming with for the Owen Walker Dream? We have 1 minute before the close of this show.
So what next? The foundation always do activities throughout the year. Our Heart Walk is coming up. That will happen in April. We'll walk in Broward. Outside of the foundation, the office Anytime you want to come and visit us at Walker Chiropractic and Wellness Center, we're here in Miramar. You can contact us, 954-639-7257.
Say it again.
So Walker Chiropractic and Wellness Center, and that is 954-639-7257. So a lot of things are coming up, but you can stay connected through the office and no more.
And on social media?
Social media, Walker Chiropractic and Wellness Center, or Dr. Venessa Walker, or Venessa Walker.
Okay. Well, this was Chatting with the Stars. We are happy to have had our star, Dr. Venessa Walker, wearing so many hats. We are pleased. It was a pleasure having you on set. And we look forward to hearing more about Dr. Venessa Walker. Thank you for joining. See you next week.